If you've been working hard and saving all of your life and you still feel like you're behind, maybe you're not. Maybe you're just chasing this crazy money goal because someone made you believe that you have to be swimming in cash to be considered wealthy. Newsflash: when Filipinos are asked how much money do you need to be considered rich, they don't really have a number in mind. So in this video, I talk about the exact math and numbers that every Filipino should shoot for if they want to become wealthy. And it's a whole lot less than most people think. So today I want to talk about the investment goal that every Filipino should aim for. So I used to believe that wealthy meant driving a fancy car, having a big mansion, and traveling nonstop and having millions in the bank account before you even reach the age of 30. But a true picture of wealth isn't having a flashy lifestyle. It could be completely different. And the question is, how big does your investment need to be? And when do you need to start planting? We'll answer that in this video, but before that, just a quick disclaimer. I am not a licensed financial planner. I'm just a dude showing his numbers in hopes of educating Filipinos and inspiring them to start their financial independence journey. A little bit more about me. My name is Patrick Mabilog. My friends call me Kiko. I'm an entrepreneur, an investor, Lord of the Rings fan. I got married at 22, racked up a six-figure debt by the age of 23 years old, got into debt again at 25, but eventually built an eight-figure business from scratch and an investment portfolio that has now reached eight figures. So let's get into today's conversation. We often think that the investment that we need to be wealthy, is some enormous number. I talk to a lot of people when it comes to investments, especially when I started this YouTube channel, and they all say the same thing. They want to retire comfortably. They want to build generational wealth. But when I ask them what that number looks like, they don't really have a number in mind. And that's understandable, by the way. I used to be like that as well because we're not really taught to come up with that number. But many times it's really just having the freedom of knowing that you have enough to cover your needs for as long as possible. And that doesn't always mean a luxury retirement. That doesn't always mean a business class flight or a condo in BGC. But it doesn't also mean that you just survive on nothing and that you rely on family members to get by. So you want a good balance where you have the freedom to chase after a life that feels comfortable and enough, but you also have a little bit aside that can also give you some of the wants that you also have in your own life. So the question now is, how do you know what that number is? And I realized this because in one of my previous videos, I shared my income stack and the income stack that my wife and I are building right now. That number is closer to about 250,000 pesos a month because we want to account for inflation. But I also realized that the mistake that I made here is making you feel that this should be your number two. But it doesn't have to be. That's our number. Yours could look completely different. Maybe your retirement looks like morning coffee on your own porch in the province, or a kitchen garden, or maybe some good food that you prepare yourself, a short trip every so often, maybe once or twice a year. Maybe you want to continue working after retirement, but you just want to start a venture that aligns more with your passions. That's all fine. Planning for someone else's lifestyle is one of the most expensive mistakes that you can make. My income stack doesn't have to be your income stack. So let's look at a specific case study. Let's look at this person who I know. Okay, this person is just made up, obviously with the picture with AI, but this is a case study, and I try to make this as real as possible. Let's call her Maria. She owns a home in Batangas. She lives near her kids, but she doesn't live with them. And she cooks at home. She has a very simple lifestyle. This could be what her month will look like today. So if you put in all of the necessities, electricity, water, food, health insurance, transport, a little bit of miscellaneous here and there, phone and internet, then she might live on somewhere around 23,000 pesos a month. Now, if you're Maria and this looks like you, we also need to realize that you're not Maria today because you're planning for yourself in 2055, not 2025, or as I'm recording this, 2026. And this is 30 years ahead. So for planning purposes, let's consider that inflation has been around 3% annually in our country, in the Philippines. And it's a figure consistent with the country's long run average. and the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas own target range. Now, if you want to get into deeper into inflation, I have a completely different video where I break down all of this. But for this video, for example, let's really keep this simple. Starting amount again for Maria is 23,000 in the year 2026. And if you're Maria right now, you're, let's say, 35 years old, and you want to retire by the time you're 65, 30 years from now, this is what your expense will look like. So today, it's 23,000 pesos a month. But in 2056, that 23,000, you need to be earning about 55,800 pesos. So let's just say 55 to 56,000 pesos. So here's the problem that we have. According to the Department of Finance, the average monthly SSS pension for retirement pensioners before 2025 reform, the 2025 reform was around 4,900 pesos. And in 2025, that's been reformed. And so the projected approximate is around 6,548 pesos. So that's the average member. And if you've been contributing at or near the maximum salary credit for most of your career, your pension will be higher. And so, let's keep it a bit, conservative. This could go up over time, but not by a whole lot. So if we look at the way that SSS has been kind of like tracking, then the numbers show, and this could be a breakdown for another video, that the SSS will cover roughly around 15,000 of your monthly retirement by 2055. So if you look at it, if you're Maria again and you need 55,000 pesos, you only have 15,000 pesos per month. That leaves you with a 40,000 per month gap to fill your own portfolio. So that's where I introduce this framework and this strategy that I want to share with you that will hopefully help you to land on your financial independence number and build a life of wealth and a comfortable retirement. So this strategy and framework, I call this the tree and the seed method. So first you have a tree, which is something that you've grown over the years and it's now bearing fruit, and you just allow that to compound. So in this case, that will be an initial investment that you need to reach by the age of 30 to 35 if you want to be on track to build meaningful wealth that will give you a good life in the future, but also will give you security today, because you know that you have this fund to fall on if you need it. So that's the first thing, the tree. And then you also have the seeds that you continue to plant. So it could be a small investment amount that's much smaller than the tree or the initial investment, but it helps you to create an additional layer of growth over the next 30 to 35 years. So if you do the actual math, and I'm trying to make this as clear as I can, because we deserve, an explanation that doesn't need a finance degree to understand this. And that's my goal, to make investing and wealth building as simple as possible for Filipinos. And when you see the output, I want you to sit with it for a second, because it surprised me as well. So let's run the actual numbers. And the question we want to answer is this: how much money do you need to have these trees that will give you wealth over the long term? So the numbers, when I crunched it, for us to really build meaningful wealth that will allow us to do three things. Number one, to retire with comfort. Number two, to have financial peace of mind. And number three, to live a life that is, in some way or another, independent from your family members, so that you don't have to be a burden to your kids. So what's that number like? The number, when I was crunching it, is to have a starting balance of an investment, your tree, of about 500,000 pesos at 35 years old. And then the seeds are 5,000 pesos per month invested into, certain instruments that will grow over the time for another 30 years. So if you look at that number, okay, I mean, like, some people might think it's big, but it's actually more doable than most of us believe. So how did I land at this number, and what does it actually look like when you invest this and you do the math right, and you do your due diligence, and you help make it grow over the long term? So again, the tree is a starting balance of 500,000 pesos. And then your seed, the monthly contribution, will be around 5,000 pesos per month. And let's just say that you want to work with an expected annual return of 8%. Some people will go and look at that and say, well, that's pretty high. I mean, like, in the Philippines, you don't really get that. Well, you don't really have to invest in the Philippines. You can invest in global markets, because you have 30 years and you have enough, you know, you have enough time and you have runway to deal with the risks of volatility. And you have, again, a time horizon of 30 years, so from the age 35 to 65 years old. So if you take that and you compute that investment and how it compounds over the long term, this is what it will look like. So once again, you have a starting amount of 500,000 pesos, and then you allow it to compound for 30 more years with a return rate of 8%, and then you contribute 5,000 pesos per month, you will actually land at an ending balance of around 12 million pesos. 12,074,081 and 38 cents. So let's round it off to 12 million pesos just for the sake of simplicity. So if you take once again that starting balance, the tree of 500,000 pesos, and you have 500,000 pesos to invest now, if you're 35, 30 years old, you're anywhere at that range. And then you make a monthly contribution for the next 30 years of 5,000 pesos. That's just a phone plan, by the way. And you put that aside as consistently as you can with an expected annual return of 8%, you're going to end up with a fund of 12 million pesos. So just a 500,000 starting balance, which isn't a walk in the park, by the way, but it's doable. I have a video showing how we were able to build more than double that before the age of 35. And once again, link somewhere. Getting kind of good at this. Hopefully, you watch the other videos as well. Then you add another 5,000 pesos per month. Again, that's an iPhone amortization. And then you build 12 million in wealth. So, what does that look like for you in terms of your passive income that can help you to create, a good layer of financial independence in your later years? So, the 4% rule, which is something that a lot of investors take as a rule of thumb, tells us that if you have a fund and you just withdraw 4% every single year, then that fund will last you for 30 years or even more. So because again, as you invest that money and you keep it invested, that money will continue to grow over time. So take away the ups and the downs of the markets and you put it into a stable investment, then you will be able to withdraw 4% very comfortably and you won't run out of cash because it will continue to grow over time. So if you look at that math, you will be able to take out 4% of 12 million, which is 480,000 per year, divided by 12 months, then you're looking at an additional income of 40,000 pesos per month. So going back to the example of Maria, once again, if you need 23,000 pesos per month now, and if you look at that with inflation being around 55,000 pesos per month by the time that you retire 30 years from now, and you get 15,000 pesos per month in SSS, and then you add the 40,000 pesos that you need additionally to live a comfortable retirement, then the math tells you that you're pretty much covered in terms of your basic needs. And that's the number what I wanted to show you. You don't need 10, 20, 50 million pesos to retire early or retire even at 65 years old. What you need actually is around 10 to 12 million pesos to cover your basic needs if your budget is something like Maria's. And of course, that is just an example. Your number could be completely different. But my point in saying this is that what you really need at the end of the day is you need a tree, an initial investment that's not as big as you think it needs to be, and a consistent amount of invested seeds over time that you can build, and that will give you the kind of lifestyle that will feel enough by the time that you retire. So these numbers, once again, they're just estimates. I'm not saying that this is 100% going to happen because I've been getting comments in the comment section saying, oh, you're just being super optimistic. And I don't think your math is right. I've been doing the math for quite some time. We started a little bit more than this, and it has been going according to plan. But if you are the pessimistic type, which sometimes I am as well, because I'm very careful about my own math, and I ask myself all the time, so like, what happens if inflation is higher and it adds another 3% or 5%? I got you. Instead of investing your 5,000 per month, maybe what you want to do is you want to increase it by the inflation of that year. So if let's say, for example, in year one, you're investing 5,000 pesos and you want to keep up with inflation and grow a little bit more, then year two, you could probably add 3%, which is 150 pesos a month, saying no to one Starbucks coffee and investing that instead. In year three, you can bring it up again to 5,305. Year five, make it 5,700. In year 10, make it 6,700. But they're just small increases that could have a big impact over 30 years. I know, of course, at the end of the day, that all of this could be math that could be wrong, could be right. And when I say wrong, what I'm saying is it could fall short. But one thing that I want to leave you with, and the lesson that I hope can really land with everyone, no matter what season of life you're in, if you're a seasoned investor who has done the math yourself, or you're still beginning, this is the final thought. You don't need to have this all figured out perfectly right now. Because the worst decision in investing is the one that you never make because you're waiting for the perfect setup. And so my encouragement to you is just start. You might not have figured out all the math, but at least you've already started. So a couple of action points, figure out the life that you actually want. I think that in itself, whatever the inflation rate is, you can start with that. And then calculate what it costs today. And then account for inflation. Maybe if you want to be more careful, maybe you want to bring up inflation numbers to 4 or 5%. That's completely up to you. But from there, you can work backwards now to the number that you need to start investing and then determine what your seed and your tree might look like. So I'm here to basically show you that that number could look anywhere close to 500,000 pesos to kind of like illustrate to you what that might bring you in the future. But you can also put in your own numbers as well. If you want to invest a bit more, 700,000 pesos, and work towards that. Or if you want to put in 10,000 a month with a smaller tree, that's completely fine as well. But I showed you basically what that um, that process looks like, and I shared with you the calculator. I'll also link that below if you want to take a look at that. But all that to say, this is the point that I want to make. The right vehicle that you started last year beats the perfect vehicle that you're still researching today. I get comments all the time where people are going, this won't work. And your idea is, it's not perfect. But I'm so glad that I started it anyways because I'm in a position where I feel more financially independent and more free than when I started. And I would rather have an imperfect plan that I've been doing for so many years than have nothing to show for and it's still not happening because I'm still looking for a better calculation or a better framework. Because we were told that retirement is only possible if you have multi-million pesos invested at an early stage of life. But I hope that after watching this video, you realize that an investment fund of anywhere between 500,000 or a little bit more than that can actually do more than most people think. That the goal is somewhere not so far away. It's not something that barely feels real. It's actually more attainable than most people think. So I'm not going to end this video pretending that this is airtight. I want you to run your own numbers. Don't wait until you have the right amount. Don't wait until you fully understand every investment vehicle. You can test small amounts first within those investment vehicles and then compound over time. I also want you to encourage you to do your own research. Maybe it's about time that I do a video on like spotting investment scams, and that could probably be the next thing. But my goal here, is to really help you understand that the people who reach financial freedom and independence are the ones who had a semi-imperfect plan. And they're the ones who started before they felt ready and adjusted along the way. Now, one question I want to ask you before you go: what does your number look like? And I want you to drop it in the comments. Like, how much do you actually need to consider, yourself wealthy? Is it 10 million a year, 10 million in an investment fund that gives you 30 to 40,000 per month in passive income on top of your pension? Is it 20, 30 million pesos a month? What number does that look like? So once again, like always, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate everyone. Please hit the subscribe button if you want to follow our financial journey and if you want to learn along the way. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye.